Last week we talked about fear, how it's important to trust and have faith in God, even when we are experiencing fear from something that we cannot see. Today we talked about suffering. Of all the challenges thrown at Christianity in modern times, perhaps the most difficult is explaining the problem of suffering. We may ask, how can a loving God allow suffering to continue in the world which He created? For those who have endured massive suffering themselves, this is a personal and emotional issue. The Bible underscores the importance of trusting God's purposes in the midst of suffering, even when we don't know what those purposes are. Suffering, like all other human experiences, is directed by the sovereign wisdom of God. In the end, we learn that we may never know the specific reason for our suffering, but we must trust in God. That is a real answer to suffering. Romans 8:28 contains some comforting words for those enduring hardship and suffering. We know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. This morning we are going to watch as a family discusses the suffering that takes place in the world today and how we can do our part to help by praying for those who are. Join us as we watch a brother and sister with their parents as they gather around their TV to watch the news.
The Boeing 747 exploded in the air and fell into the Pacific Ocean as it made its approach in the Los Angeles International Airport. There were no known survivors. Family members and friends reacted with shock and disbelief as they heard the fate of the aircraft. The cause of the explosion is under investigation by the FAA.
Lord have mercy, those poor people. How are they ever going to get through the pain? And all those lives lost, that's so unfair and scary. It could happen to anyone.
You have to turn the microphone on.
Hey guys, look, it was their time. When it's your time, it's your time. There's nothing anyone can do about it.
Maybe not, but that doesn't make the suffering go away.
No one can make the suffering go away. No one.
I imagine that's true, but God bless all the good people who have tried. Where would we be without the Albert Schweitzers and the Mother Teresas of the world?
Dad, there aren't doing anything more than putting band-aids on gaping wounds. Neither of those can change the world. People still suffer. See, listen, now he's talking about the hurricane.
Governor D.J. Hoffman today declared the city of Judahville a disaster area. The city was hit hard last week by Hurricane Elijah. Hundreds of people remain in shelters, waiting for the water to recede so they can return to their homes.
What did I tell you? More suffering. I don't believe you have to end suffering to change the world. I think all you have to do is give suffering a chance to make sense.
Can suffering ever make sense?
I think Jesus makes it make sense.
How?
Just think, He had no room in which to be born. That's suffering. He wouldn't have had to do it in the hard way, but He chose to. His parents were forced to drag Him as an infant to Egypt. More suffering. He was despised and rejected by His own hometown when He returned for a visit. He was betrayed, beaten, scourged, crucified, and He died. That's suffering.
But just because it's Jesus' suffering doesn't make it make sense.
It does when you recall He suffered for you. His suffering was rightfully ours. It was the price we should have paid for being sinful, but Jesus did it for us.
Maybe so, but we still suffer, almost every day.
Yes, but not without hope.
What?
Jesus' suffering on our behalf ended in a resurrection, a triumph over the forces of evil. Jesus' resurrection gives hope for good to come out of every evil, even death.
Let me see if I'm getting this. Suffering makes sense if it only brings somebody hope.
So where is the hope in Los Angeles tonight?
Well, people are caring. They are risking their own lives in order to find survivors. There is an awful lot of courage being shown out there, and when you see that much courage, you can't help but be changed. It's almost as if the suffering we see in ourselves and others causes us to lose our self-centeredness. Then we're free to feel compassion and humility. Suffering also gives us a chance to have faith in something besides ourselves.
There's a passage in the Bible that says, "Since we have been justified through faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ. We also rejoice in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance, character, and character, hope."
That's what your mom was saying. Without Jesus, suffering brings nothing but pain. By trusting in Jesus, we have life won through his resurrection, and we trust that suffering will be turned by God to our good. Sure, it still hurts, but now it hurts with a purpose. So Jesus' suffering was not in vain, and so our suffering isn't either.
So what do I do when I watch the news and see all the pain?
I think you say something like this: Dear Jesus, you suffered, died, and rose again. Now you sit at the right hand of God. By your Spirit, lead people to trust in you and to rest in the forgiveness and life you give, and also turn this suffering for their good.